So nearly a dozen New York City elected officials were detained after protesting at a federal immigration building yesterday. Take a look.
A little bit louder, breathe. We want justice for our neighbors. We are the people.
ICE sources tell us that officers had to secure the doors with locks and zip ties to stop the protesters from trying to get in. And a separate protest downstairs outside the building, protesters there were blocking ICE vans from leaving the facility. For more on this, we are joined by Tricia McLaughlin, DHS Assistant Secretary for Public Affairs. Tricia, good morning and great to see you as always.
Good morning, Bill. Great to be with you.
So the Democrats wanted to get into the 10th floor of the ICE building there in New York City. That's where you guys have some holding cells. And there was a New York State Senator, her name's Julia Salazar. She tweeted that they're, quote, fighting for their immigrant neighbors. Let's talk about who those neighbors are being held on the 10th floor. Here's some of them. According to ICE, there's an MS-13 gang member convicted of criminal weapon possession and DUI, an illegal alien convicted of criminal gun possession, an illegal alien arrested for flying drones near the White House, another alien with 2 kilograms of fentanyl, and another alien convicted of drug trafficking in Switzerland. Tricia, those are some neighbors to have.
No American wants these individuals to be their neighbors. They don't want criminals living next door, which is exactly why ICE law enforcement is removing them from the streets of New York, while these sanctuary city politicians actually give them protection. And just to set the scene here, Bill, it was 71 agitators who came to this ICE processing center and put our staff at risk, put security and law enforcement at risk, and also put the migrants themselves. You listed some of those worst of the worst detainees who are in that facility, and Bradlanders and these other 11 politicians should answer to New York City citizens. Why do they want a member of MS-13 released into the country? Why do they want a drug trafficker? Why do they want somebody who was in possession of a gun illegally? Why do they want somebody who was flying a drone near the White House illegally? Why do they want these individuals back onto the streets of New York to re-perpetuate these crimes? This is exactly why ICE is on the ground, why they're working every single day despite the obstruction of these sanctuary city politicians.
And Tricia, you can probably see it on your screen. We're taking a look at some live images in Chicago right now where that ICE operation is underway called Midway Blitz. What you're looking at are groups of protesters outside of the Broadview processing facility there. They've been gathering since early this morning. There's already clips online showing some of the folks there being arrested for interfering with ICE. Once again, they were trying to block ICE vehicles from leaving that facility. So, I mean, we're seeing this sort of thing every day all over the country. Give us your reaction to what we're looking at in Chicago right now.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's a reminder that we're not going to back down. There can be politicians who try to demonize our law enforcement. We're frequently hearing, whether it be Brandon Johnson, the mayor of Chicago, J.B. Pritzker, Gavin Newsom, or even the politicians out of New York, likening our ICE law enforcement to the Gestapo, to Nazis, to slave patrol, as you heard Jasmine Crockett call them earlier. This is incredibly violent rhetoric, and it is giving a permission slip to lunatics to take matters into their own hands and to commit violence against our officers who are already facing a 1,000% increase in assaults against them. We will not be deterred. We know the American people will not be deterred. We've been recruiting scores of new law enforcement agents, 150,000 applications. So the American people see through the charade of the media. They see what they're trying to do in demonizing our law enforcement, who are just enforcing the rule of law on the books, Bill.
And Tricia, as we continue to take a look at these live images, I mean, it's very similar to what we saw in New York City yesterday. And some of the protesters in New York were chanting, quote, from Palestine to Mexico, border walls have got to go. Then all sorts of Democrats were tweeting that it was an outrage that ICE arrested some of the politicians for blocking the driveway and blocking ICE from conducting their operations. When you look at things like this and what you saw in New York yesterday, do you get the sense that some of these politicians who show up, they want the attention from this? Because you notice right after their arrest, they post these highly filtered, dramatic photos of themselves being led away in handcuffs, and they talk about how big of an outrage it is. Do you think they're getting what they want by showing up and getting arrested by the feds?
Bill, I think you're exactly right. I think these desperate politicians want their 15 minutes of fame, and they're willing to do it off the backs of our law enforcement. They're willing to do it off of the backs of the security of these brave men and women who work every day to get criminals off the streets. And even the migrants themselves, they're putting them at further risk just to get on TV, just to get a viral tweet. It's pretty despicable, but we will continue to do what we're doing, whether it be in Chicago, Los Angeles, Memphis, or New York. Our law enforcement is dedicated to enforcing the rule of law. I mean, Bill, every single day I get a report on my desk of the child pedophiles, of the rapists, of the murderers, really sick individuals who have been walking with impunity on America's streets for 4 years. And under Secretary Noem and President Trump, no more. We're not playing games. We will continue to enforce the rule of law and get these criminals off of our streets. So these politicians, while they don't lead, they can thank Secretary Noem, they can thank President Trump, and they can thank law enforcement for actually enforcing the rule of law and making America's streets safer.
Yeah, and it doesn't get as much attention, but I've been out with ICE. I've been embedded with them multiple times, and there have been times where they arrest some drug dealer or a pedophile or a murderer, and people come out of their apartments and they come out and shake ICE's hands and say, hey, thank you for getting that guy. But we don't hear about that as much. Tricia McLaughlin, thank you so much for joining us this morning as we continue to take a look at these protests outside of the ICE facility in Chicago. Tricia, thank you.
Thank you, Bill.